All right, I call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock here in council chambers. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Present.
Macias,
Present.
Razak,
Present.
Timian,
Present.
Finch,
Present.
McNeil,
Present.
Castro,
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
All right, don't believe we have any remote electronic attendance. Is there public comment, Chief?
No.
All right, thank you. We have some board appointments and reappointments. Mayor's appointment of Blake Bierman to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term to expire April 30th, 2028. And I'd like to say that this is to fill a seat vacated by retiring former alderperson Dick Potter, coming off of this commission. So we're thankful for his service. Secondly, Mayor's reappointment of Wendy Harold to the Police Pension Board for a 2-year term to expire April 30th, 2027, and the Mayor's reappointment of Rick Jennings to the Police Pension Board for a 2-year term to expire April 30th, 2027. Any questions? Seeing none, we move to our presentations. Mr. Brown, Water Art Contest winner announcement.
The third grade students of Moline Elementary Schools were invited to participate in this year's water art contest. Every year, the water division holds an art contest to celebrate the importance and fun of water. So this year's theme was Water is Life. The students from all schools were encouraged by their dedicated art teachers to use their talents and imagination to pretty much have free reign and show what the importance of water and the enjoyment of water that a lot of third graders because when you're in third grade, water is more enjoyment than necessity, right? So the way the contest works is each art class has all their students make a piece of art, and then from that class, then they pick a class winner. But then that's when the real fun begins. Each class winner then goes into a city-wide competition. And this year it was brutal, but really exciting with over 750 votes cast, which I think is probably a record. I know it's a record, there's no probably about it. And we had a winner come through, left the rest in a heap. So if Nora, if you could grab I told you guys won't bite. So Nora, would you like to show your art to them? This is Nora Montag. She is this year's city-wide winner. So what you guys are looking at right here is one of the most, if not the most, talented third grader in all of Moline. You can see that she took this art and she has it depicting, she has water, it's depicting water providing life to these flowers. So what we'll do is one of these big posters will go into the schools to celebrate her for years to come, and hopefully carry on the tradition at her school of Hamilton. And we'll have another poster go to the water plant. I don't know if you guys have been to the water plant lately, but our walls are covered with past winners. So you can see how third grade art through the years in Moline has progressed. But just like all things in life, it's hard to do anything alone. So Nora had help from her dedicated art teacher, Kayla Reed. You can go ahead and stand up and take a bow. And then Nora also is encouraged by her parents, Jack and Carrie Montag. They know I'm going to ask them to stand up and take a bow. There we go. So Nora was this year's big winner. One thing she did promise me is, what are you going to do with your talent? She's going to share it with others. So she's promised me that she will be Ms. Reed's special assistant in the classroom. So as other needs help, she'll be able to say, well, I'm not the teacher, but I'm better than the rest of you. and share her talent with the others. So please join me in congratulating Nora on being the teacher.
When we were sworn in, was the water thing, when we were sworn in.
Reflex.
At Hamilton.
Okay, our next presentation is the Community Food Assistance Partnership, COVID-19 Food Voucher Distribution. Mr. Mathias and Ms. Whitley?
Thank you. As you know, we've all been busy closing out our COVID-19 money, and for us, that's meant 2 rounds of food assistance vouchers that we've done this year. That remaining money that's left, we wanted to really reward 3 of our community partners who have been engaged in the community, and so tonight we wanted to present them with that the remainder of those funds, and we want to present that to Project Now, Salvation Army, as well as our Parks and Rec program, their summer program. And with all the work they do with the kids. So we're happy to have them here to honor the work that they do, but also present them with some assistance and with our food program. And I should say it's been a successful program for us. We'd like to try and have that become a regular part of our CDBG program if we can. And so KJ's included that in our plans to try and get that for next year if we can, just because it's been a successful program for us. So happy to have them come up here and present them with the checks.
Head Start, Salvation Army. We're gonna face that way. Salvation Army? And what we do on Moline Parks? And then Project Now. Mayor?
I'm right here.
Let's get the mayor. Sorry, we kind of blocked it out there.
No, we're good, we're good.
Staying in back.
All right, thank you guys.
Miss Whitley, did you say, I didn't see the checks, how much they were for
Oh,
each of the.
$1,155 each.
Okay, we have a few proclamations this week. The first one is a proclamation from the American Water Works Association to declare May 4 through 10, 2025 as Drinking Water Week. But our illustrious Charlie Brown is out there, so.
Melissa and I.
All right, great. Thank you. So the proclamation reads, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas a measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas each resident of the city of Moline is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to become involved in local water issues by learning about this valuable resource. Now therefore, I, Sangeetha Rayapati, Mayor of Moline, do hereby proclaim May 4 through 10, 2025 as Drinking Water Week. Congratulations and thanks for all you're doing to keep our drinking water clean.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Next proclamation is a proclamation from the Community and Economic Development Department to declare April 21 to 25, 2025 as National Community Development Week. You
They're in the
both
fall
coming up?
celebrating, come on.
No. KJ's right here. All right, did you want to say anything about this week?
Oh, no.
Okay. The proclamation reads, whereas the week of April 21 through 25, 2025 has been designated as National Community Development Week by the National Community Development Association to celebrate the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnerships program, and whereas the CDBG program provides annual funding and flexibility to local communities to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing, a suitable living environment, and economic opportunities to low and moderate income people. And whereas the Home Investment Partnerships Program provides funding to local communities to create decent, safe, affordable housing opportunities for low-income persons. Nationally, over 1 million units of affordable housing have been completed using home funds. And whereas over the program's history, our community has received a total of $41,777,466 in CDBG funds. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Sangeeta Rayapati, do hereby proclaim the week of April 21, 2025 as National Community Development Week. And thank you for all you're doing with CDBG funds. Congratulations. All right, are there questions on the agenda? Hearing none, we move to our Committee of the Whole items. 9.1 is a resolution authorizing a grant to the Mississippi Valley Blues Society for the amount of $2,500 from the Special Events Fund to help offset expenses for a first-time event, Sunday Blues Day on Sunday, June 1st, 2025.
Mayor and council staff is excited about this event and is recommending approval of the $2,500 for this first-time event in our city.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Schmidt, seconded by Finch. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 9.2, a resolution approving the licensing agreement for the 2025 Mercado on Fifth season scheduled for May 23, 2025 through September 26, 2025. Authorizing a grant to Mercado on Fifth for the amount of $20,000 from the Special Events Fund to promote the event and assist in covering event costs, closing certain streets more particularly described herein to vehicular traffic, and authorizing the use of public right-of-way in conjunction with said event. Mr. Vitas.
Mayor and council, we enthusiastically support Mercado in their request for $20,000 to continue the Friday night events all summer long.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion? Yes, Ms. Castro.
I just have a question. Last year when we discussed this, we were talking about having a MOU with Mercado. Has that been done and completed, or are we still doing this just every year, or how is that going?
We may, it's a great question, and I knew somebody would ask that. We attempted on several occasions to try and create an MOU with Mercado on Fifth, and quite honestly, we were not able to get to the point where there was an MOU. So we are continuing forward this year on the same basis we have since the inception of Mercado on Fifth.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 9.3, a resolution approving change order number 1 and final with General Constructors, Inc. of the Quad Cities for project number 1436, 70th Street and John Deere Parkway retaining wall for the amount of $25,429.60.
Staff in the engineering department in specific is recommending approval of the final payment and change order number 1 for this project.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 9.4, a resolution accepting the 2025 analysis of impediments to fair housing choice for Moline, Illinois, Rock Island, Illinois, and Davenport, Iowa, as the city's official guide to affirmatively furthering fair housing objectives.
If I could ask KJ to come forward for this item, and you might as well stay for the second item too, KJ. These are your babies.
All right, hello, everyone. As you may recall, about 2 months ago, the consultants were here for the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, as well as a housing needs assessment. These are 5-year reports. We will use them in the 25 through 29 con plan. The analysis that were presented in these plans as we come up with our projects and our activities for the next 5 years with CDBG funding. We did hold a 30-day comment period for the public. We did not receive any comments. So basically what was presented to you many weeks ago remains the same, other than some cleanup with grammar. And then a couple suggestions that were made at the Davenport Council meeting as well as the Moline Council meeting. So we are recommending for you guys to accept them.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Schmidt. Discussion. Mr. Timian.
KJ, what happens if we don't accept this?
Well, we don't have a basis to write our report on.
Okay, so with that, I'm like a one-trick pony. I do one thing really well, and it's look at zoning parts. And so I'm looking at the table on page 130 and the follow-up on 130 through 136, and I disagree with some things about if they're impediments or not, and I'm happy to go through them. But the first one I want to point out is that on page 136, they specifically say that Moline allows for ADUs in only 2 scenarios, none of which are the things that we really allow ADUs for. So did they use outdated zoning code?
Hopefully not. Chris, can I get you to step up here? Can you bring the page up, the attachment updated? They're about 200 pages each, so.
Apologies for
We
the
didn't print them
long,
out,
yeah.
yeah. I know you did ask me the one question on the zoning and on the data, how it was collected.
Right, and yeah, that was a satisfactory answer. I was just looking more through what was considered an impediment, and there's a few things that I fundamentally disagree with, but I kind of wanted to start with, if they're saying that they didn't even account for the ADUs that we put into law last year. So if that's inaccurate, what else might be inaccurate? And if this is the basis for the comp plan, is it sufficient as a foundation?
So it is the basis for the 25 through 29 consolidated action plan, as well as the 26, 27, 28, and 29 annual action plans.
Okay.
If there is something inadequate, I wish we would have known that, so we can include it in the comments that we send up to HUD.
And I apologize for not taking a deeper dive sooner. I take responsibility.
Well, but when do you send the comments to HUD?
Well, we're gonna send them when we send up the 25 consolidated plan, the 25 consolidated action plan, but the comment period ended on the 18th. So we're outside that comment
Right.
period.
Okay.
Now, I can make note of that as I write the plan, that we do have some,
It's inaccurate.
It's just a
Inaccurate
It's completely
information, yeah.
inaccurate. It's like 130 or.
136 is
136.
what I'm looking at.
Second paragraph.
So, I mean, we can certainly make a statement in there about that. This gives us a baseline. We don't have to do everything that's in this report, but it gives us a baseline to move forward and make our suggestions to HUD. So, I mean, we can certainly point it out in that fashion when we send up the report.
There it is.
Yeah.
Did you all get a chance to proofread it?
Yeah, all the cities ran through it, and this one was not caught.
Okay. Are there other questions? Or you have more?
I had another, and I don't know what the argument here is, but when I'm looking at like 7A, which is the table probably on 131, David, it counts, does the zoning ordinance fail to provide residential districts where multifamily housing is permitted as of right? Obviously we do. We do have R4, R6, R8 zoning. Those were envelope zoning. So when that zoning map was made, they took the existing apartments, wrapped it and said, this is our apartment zone, and everything else was single family. And so, do we have it? Yes. Is it 75% of our acreage is dedicated to single family? So is this an impediment for more affordable housing? Also, yes, because we don't allow for more density by right, which is what this is asking for. So then marking it as a 1 tells me that they just check to see if it exists, not if it's actually an impediment or not. And we could be splitting hairs about semantics, but I obviously if they were here, I could grill them about it, but I don't really know if this is an accurate representation, especially considering we have the highest percentage of our acreage dedicated to single family out of any of the cities on this report. And so is that an impediment for affordable housing? I feel it is, but.
And I don't disagree that it's an impediment. I think, as you and I have discussed before, Alderman Tenny and I think that we are very high on the single family ratio. There are some R4 areas which aren't just plotting out existing. There are some R4 areas that could still be, one of them is 34th Street over by Blackhawk College, for example. But I don't disagree with the statement, which is that we have too much single family zoning according to the folks that would do even that analysis. And we're used to seeing that in these reports.
Anything further from the council?
If, KJ, if we were to not support this or push back, is there an opportunity to adjust this as it is, or how does that process work?
To the best of my knowledge, that usually comes during the public comment.
Okay,
Except they're asking us to adopt something that's incorrect. So couldn't we send it to them with amendments?
Well, we're asking you to accept it.
Okay.
Before, we would ask you to adopt it, but now we're just asking you to accept it. We were very careful on the verbiage that we use in these resolutions. But again, it's a baseline for us to build how we want to use our dollars. But then we can also make note of these corrections in the plan itself.
And it's still a tool that we can use
Okay.
to pursue a plan.
So you can take corrective action to this report in the plans
In
that
the
you
plan.
bring to us to
Correct.
adopt as well.
I will,
Okay.
Incorporate the minutes from this meeting, and as we go through and decide what our activities are gonna be, we can incorporate that message.
Okay, yes, Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, it certainly isn't accurate. I do wonder if it was more of a delay of when it got passed to when it makes it into the legal code. Publishing may have been part of what creates that incidence or that issue. I'm sure this report was also written out not over a period of months, so that sort of thing. I think our team is aware of that, and we need to keep paying attention to it. But I'm not concerned about that one instance on the long-term impact.
Okay, anything further from the council? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
nay,
All right, that passes 7-1. Thank you. We move to, that was 9.4, so we move to 9.5, a resolution accepting the 2025 Housing Needs Assessment Report from Moline, Illinois, Rock Island, Illinois, and Davenport, Iowa as a guiding document to ensure that the consolidated plan addresses the housing and community development needs and the use of HUD funds. Anything further? All right, we need a motion.
Second.
Motion by Schmidt, seconded by Finch. Discussion? From council? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you.
9.6, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 amusements of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 5-1101C, by increasing the number of video gaming terminal licensed establishments in the city at the request of owner Josiah Blanton of Harold's Chicken and Sports Bar LLC, doing business as Harold's Chicken and Sports Bar, 425 15th Street, Moline. Mr. Vitas?
The staff is recommending approval of the request for the up to 6 gaming machines at that establishment once it's able to open.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion. Mr. Schmidt?
I think that I think this is something that we should go forward with and approving. This is bringing a business that is going to allow it to have a revenue stream that will help to ensure a new business coming up in Moline is going to function. I know there's often discussion about where we will or will not allow these machines to exist, and I think in a bar is the right place. And this is a bar and a restaurant, and they'll be going in, and that'll make it a good addition and help provide them that stability opportunity that's already afforded to many of our businesses. This is very different from the standalone mini casinos that we are not allowing. And I just think that's important to revisit and make sure we're all on that same page. Thanks.
Any others?
I have a question.
Yes.
I've been asked several times. Does anybody know when this place is opening? I mean, it's been,
There are issues with the
Advertise and
building,
advertise.
but
I mean,
I'll
we
let
can-
you
we can-
speak to that if it's appropriate and under this
Sure.
item, sir.
Sure, no, I mean, it's not a, it's not a big
It's not one of the factors that's stated in the code, but I understand the question because I go by it frequently.
And you'd like to frequent the place, but you can't. You all would actually.
It's
We're all waiting for it to open.
It's related in the fact that if we can approve this, it moves it along a little bit quicker.
There are just simply
Agreed.
building code issues that have not been addressed yet by the property owner, which need to be addressed, and there was work done without permits that had to be corrected. So we're in the process of going through Mr. Daly's building division of the CED department to make sure everything is in order before they are able to open the doors.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. 9.7, a resolution approving amendments to the program description of the City of Moline Revolving Loan Fund Program effective for the 2025 to 27 Revolving Loan Fund Program and authorizing city staff to do all things necessary to implement the 2025 to 27 Revolving Loan Fund Program as amended.
Thank you, Mayor. So when I started here, we one of the goals that we had on our list was to come up with more small business incentives, really find ways we could support smaller businesses. As you're aware, TIF and some of these other things, they usually support the larger businesses, and we wanted to come up with more tools. We've had a revolving loan fund for many, many years, and one thing we found was there were just too many obstacles, too many parameters that a business had to meet, and we couldn't help enough businesses. And so we wanted to try and open this up just to be able to help more businesses. The way a revolving loan fund typically works, and of course the city can come up with all the different parameters they want to, but the major idea here is we would come in as a second source of funding, right? This would be a business is working with a bank, a primary lender, and we could come in to support that with a lower financing option. So the table that you have in front of you, the gray areas are really kind of our new program. And you'll see the reason there's only one for the microloan is that's a new concept that Chris Parr, who's really been spearheading this project. And he got really specific questions. Chris Parr's here. He can help us answer those. But you can see here where the green kind of is what we have right now with the gap financing with our traditional program. And the gray is like how we're changing it. One of the key things I'll point out is this used to be a job, the gray is current and the green is for discussion. But anyway, one of the main things was there was a job creation requirement to this before. And it was like $10,000 per job created. And so we want to change that, number one, to retaining jobs. That's going to allow us to help more businesses. A lot of other, you can go through and see some of the terms and other things that we're dealing with. But another idea was to add this micro loan option. And this would be a much smaller loan, under $10,000, where we don't have any FTE requirement, but it would be targeted for areas where we think, what we're calling critical business need. We didn't define that location, but we're thinking of areas where the city really wants to entice investment. That could be these older commercial areas like Old Town, Uptown, certain parts of Avenue of the cities, primarily not going to be on John Deere Road or other areas that don't need the assistance as much. But we didn't tie that to a specific area. We tied that more to the need, right, of the business. So, this was approved by our LF committee. Some other questions you might have, there's $202,000 in the fund right now. And this will allow us to get that out to businesses easier. Anticipated availability in the account would be $272,000. That's when those COVID loans get repaid. We would expect to get another 70 in there. So I'm very happy where we are with this. This is going to be a great tool for us to really help smaller businesses, and just asking for your support so we can really start marketing this. The programs we've seen, like in Henry County, I mean, they're in the banks marketing this, right? It's they're getting this out there. So our next step, if we can get this approved, would really be to make sure, we've been working with Bank Orion, but we want to work with other banks too to make sure they know that this is out there.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Schmitz, seconded by Finch. Discussion? Mr. Schmidt?
Could we get a little explanation on the utilization of the fund? Like how much has been utilized recently or used? And I know Mr. Parr had numbers on that
Yeah.
that I had asked about earlier.
I will say that I don't believe we've done a standard RLF loan in many, like 10 years, maybe longer. So this, I was not here at the time, but the staff and the council that were here utilized that money well during COVID. So good on them, because that money was sitting there and needed to be utilized. But this, it was really hard to meet all these parameters, especially like, hey, make sure you're working with a bank, but you're not successful enough, but you're creating jobs, but not too many, so it was just.
I will say, I'm really thankful to see this kind of flexibility starting to be built into our programs. I know Bi-State has a revolving loan fund, and they can't get people to use it at all. So I'm glad we're trying to move beyond the restrictions we've had.
And if you're successful moving money, then, we've seen in Henry County, they were offered $1 million more because they moved so much of their money. You want another $1 million? So, not saying we're going to get that. I'm not making any promises, but the point is, if this fund works, people will notice, and hopefully other grants, and other funding sources will notice.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, I had known that it was underutilized, but just how underutilized, and that we've had success when we found alternative methods. Some really like that we're making this. I wonder if even that standard gap financing still feels really difficult. So I think we'll see if that's far enough, and certainly if we get to a place where we still think that's not being used, and we'd certainly be willing to even take a look at adjusting again. I think, but I appreciate moving slowly. Like that makes a lot of sense to me, and adding the microloans too is another piece of that. So I like that we're making that progress, and definitely would be open to monitoring it and seeing if we need to make additional changes either direction in the future.
And if I can make one more comment. One thing we learned from Henry County is you're going to have you're going to have a few bad loans. You don't have a good RLF program unless you have a few bad loans. So I think what had happened in the past with the city is there may have been a bad loan at some point. They put all these parameters, and it's like now you're not doing anything. So, so appreciate that.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah.
And then Ms. Castro.
And just kind of following up to what you had said, I think that's really good and important for this program, because the reality is we're there to try and help businesses to get established, to get up and running, and to make sure they stay functioning. And while that is somewhat risky, as you said, but where we might have some bad loans, I think it's important that if we keep those businesses functioning, it's going to be better for the city long term, but much more than the risk. Thank you.
Ms. Castro?
I was just going to mention that I appreciate the change for not having to create new jobs, but retain jobs, because I think in the current economy, I think that is really good as saving jobs, not just creating them. So it's kind of offering some job stability to folks too. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Timian?
I just want to say I love microloans. I mean, like, there's a whole.
Is that the other thing that you're focused on?
Okay, I admire microloans from afar. There's been a body of research on how they are so much more impactful than large loans, and repayment is higher. They directly help people without the levels of oversight, and people pay them back. And so at a 96%, so we're going to have some bad ones or something, but they're really good, and it's telling these businesses the city cares about them and wants them around.
That's right.
And I think that's an important message we're sending.
Thank you.
And I appreciate our staff. Chris Parr took this, he took this directive and worked with Tara Osborne, so I appreciate them getting this done.
Mr. Macias?
Thank you. You mentioned marketing. Do you guys already have the plan together, or are you going to follow what was done before, or is it just building relationships with lenders? I guess, what will it look like?
Yeah, I think it'll be, to be honest with you, we haven't developed the materials yet, but it'll be especially because we want to get the council's approval first, but I think part of it is just getting in those banks and meeting the people and understanding that it's out there, right? Hey, so I think it's one thing to email you something or mail you something, but if we can sit down with you as a banker and let you know that this is here and talk to you about what we're trying to do, I think that's going to go further.
Okay. Well, if there's any, I'd be happy to assist. I put together a couple of revolving loan funds, microloan funds, and yeah, sometimes it's really hard to get them to sell it. So the easiest way to put it together, a toolkit, whatever it may be, it helps. And also having some of the materials in Spanish would probably be key, as well as Hispanic-owned businesses in particular. Women, Latina-owned businesses tend to be growing at a much faster rate than other businesses.
I would also suggest, and we probably need to have your department do some research, but our French-speaking population from African countries. I think we might need to be exploring resources in all three languages. Yes.
I can give some information for resources. I think for microcredit, my native country became the champion in the world, and the guy who developed it and experimented it more than 100 countries in the world, and for that he was offered a Nobel Prize. So I can give you some information, and then you can do some research.
That'd be great.
This side of the room is our resident experts apparently.
Microloans.
Yeah, microcredit, and that's the
Talk to
only.
Chris Park.
Chris knows who to reach out to.
All right, if there's nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. 9.8, an ordinance amending Chapter 24, Personnel of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 24-2203, Residency, by repealing Section 24 in its entirety and enacting in lieu thereof one new Section 24-2203 dealing with the same subject matter.
Okay, my turn. So, quick, there we go. So anyhow, we had an opportunity to take, again, looking at our policies, especially related to trying to not only retain, but then attract employees to the city. It's been an ongoing issue since day one. It's not just our issue, it's everyone's issue. So we, over the years, looked at this, but decided it was time to bring something forward. And it's really based more on experience and what's been occurring. If you take a look at the material that was sent to you, I had our GIS folks put together a employee dispersion chart. And it's really self-evident where the bulk of our workforce is at. And it's here in Moline. And it's pretty much here on the Illinois side of the river. We have people that are out in the country a little bit. But everybody is, when that chart was done, is in compliance with either union contracts for police or fire or for AFSCME. And then as far as the non-union goes, of course, you know, it's the same thing. So we are attracting people here locally as opposed to from afar. One of the challenges that we came up with was going all the way back to 21 when we had half of our department director positions filled, was trying to attract these positions and getting the right talent pool. And as we went through the process, sometimes we found ourselves redoing the process more than once, not getting even candidates to apply. And the minute the words residency disappeared off of the advertisement, all of a sudden candidates started to show up. So the recruiters have pointed out pretty clearly to us that that is one of the challenges that they're finding, not just for us, but for other organizations, you know, that they represent anywhere in the United States. It's not just an Illinois issue either. So what we're recommending is changing it so that, you know, we leave in place that which we have in place with our bargaining units, which has clearly been negotiated, laid out, and approved by council through agreement. And then as far as the non-union and as far as the directors go, the directors would not have that residency requirement. If you look at how they're populated now, the majority are here on the Illinois side, some live on the Iowa side, and nobody's in Wisconsin, right? It's too far, but they're all right here. You know, and as far as going forward with not only the city administrator's position, but the assistant city administrator's position, those would be required, and those, of course, would be subject to negotiated agreements between a seated council and the individual that would be pursuing the job. And I feel pretty strongly about that, and not removing that requirement, because in my years of service to local government, that has always been the case. It's been very rare, anywhere for that matter, where an administrator or a city manager would not have a residency requirement. So there are places that have gotten rid of it, but I'm recommending for purposes of Moline that would be a requirement. So we're recommending approval of the policy and here to answer questions.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Schmidt. Discussion. Yes, Mr. Schmidt?
When I first read into that, I sort of recoiled a little bit and thought, wait, why would we want to move away from that? But I think that as you laid it out and as we walked through, it does make a lot of sense because it is providing us that opportunity to make sure we're getting the best services to our residents. You know, I think it's one of those moments where we have to remember we're one town in a much larger community, and this is going to give us that chance to leverage the larger community. So I think, like you said, it was one of those things. I think it was just because of how it's been, and that I like keeping it for the top positions that made sense. So yeah, I think it will just, if it'll help, then it makes a lot more sense.
Mr. Timmy and then Ms. Castro.
I like this. I think that the reality is that the housing market's a little unstable. And a lot of people refinanced during COVID, so they had a lower APR. And now asking them to sell their house in Alito and buy a comparable home here, not only would be more expensive, but would have a much higher interest rate. So like, and then they might not be able to sell their house in Alito, or, you know, whatever. Maybe Alito's not the right city, but Coal Valley, whatever. So the point is, I think like economically, this is great. My biggest fear, I've talked myself out of, is that the director. So I've talked to Director Dreyer quite a bit about 12th Avenue because he lives off of it. And when we were going through the bicycle lane, the great debate of 2022, he saw it firsthand. And so like, I'm afraid we're gonna lose some of that if directors are not living here, but I also acknowledge that they already do. So it might just be a problem that doesn't really exist. But otherwise, I support this. I think it's the right direction.
Ms. Castro.
I was a little bit put off when I read it at first too. I guess my question is, when we are posting for these director positions, we are putting out nationwide searches, right? I mean, it's not just local searches. So if someone is going to be coming in here from, you know, another part of the country and they had a choice, I mean, I would love for them to choose Moline as the place that they would want to move. So I guess not just looking at those folks who are living currently in the area, but those people that are living out of the area too. So I guess, and then also to Mr. Timmy's point, but I do understand the that it would make it easier for those other ones. So I'd like to keep it, but if it's going to make it easier, I guess.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Schmidt and then Mr. McNeil.
And I think it really is, it allows that lateral move. Someone to come from our neighboring communities, which is also gonna give us a big advantage. Because while that person won't have dealt exactly with our problems, they're gonna be way more familiar with it than coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And of course, people can come from come from all over, but, yeah, I think it sounds worse, but we just have to live in that reality we're in too.
Mr. McNeil.
Yeah, so my experience has been primarily with school districts, and I've seen that the residency requirements can create obstacles. And I've always perceived it as a kind of a sense of pride, right? It's like our city's not good enough for you. And I don't think that's the case. I think you can get highly qualified candidates that are prideful in their work to come to work for your city. I mean, I was immersed in work in Rock Island while being a very prideful Moline resident for a decade. And then there are other variables. If we have the candidate that we want that has children in school, and, you know, it's then I wouldn't want to move my children necessarily, but it's so I like it. I'm in favor.
Thank you. Anything further? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 9.9, a resolution approving an amendment to the rules and regulations adopted by the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners hereinafter commission concerning Chapter 6, examination for original appointment, fire, Section 4, physical ability test, to require proof of successful completion of the CPAT by a licensed facility issued within 1 year prior to the date of the written examination. Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is actually, we're just reverting back to old language. In February of 2023, I stood here and requested the current language because we had a severe staffing problem with the fire department. So the new language, or the old language, current language, I'm sorry, allowed us to certify a hiring list without them passing the physical agility test. because the list was good for 2 years, that would give each individual an opportunity to pass that physical agility test. We were successful in that. We're fully staffed now. Well, we're short one. But we were able to fill 14 vacancies through that process. But what we found is it was very inefficient. At one point, I think we did interviews Monday through Friday for 8 hours a day. It was 50, 60 interviews that we did. Probably 40 of those individuals never did pass the CPAT. So it was very inefficient for us. So what we're requesting now is just go back to the old language where they have to pass the physical agility test before the list gets certified.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. 9.10, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a licensing agreement with Finney's of Moline LLC, doing business as River House Bar and Grill for the use of public right-of-way for the historic Black Courtyard for the outdoor service of alcoholic liquor and food from May 7, 2025 to October 11, 2025. Mr. Vitas?
I'll take this one and the next several related to the same issue, and these are all requests. This particular one, of course, is for River House Bar and Grill to use historic Black Courtyard, which we're trying to reactivate with Kirk Marsky with Moline Center and Renew Moline. So we're recommending approval of the requests.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, motion by Finch and Castro. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 9.11, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a licensing agreement with Bent River Brewing Company for use of the historic Black Courtyard to sell alcoholic liquor in conjunction with the Chillin' in the Courtyard live music series on May 10, June 14th, and August 9th, 2025, and the Great Race Watch Party live music event on June 22nd, 2025.
Recommend approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 9.12, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a licensing agreement with Three Brothers Hospitality, LLC, DBA Poor Bros Craft Tap Room for use of the historic Black Courtyard to sell alcoholic liquor in conjunction with the Chillin' in the Courtyard live music series on July 12, September 13th, and October 11, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 9.13, resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a licensing agreement with Bent River Brewing Company for the use of the Bass Street Landing Public Plaza to sell alcoholic liquor in conjunction with the Bass Street Landing Summer Concert Series on May 22nd, June 5th, June 19th, July 11th, July 17th, and August 7th, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 9.14, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to attest to a licensing agreement with Three Bros Hospitality, LLC, DBA Poor Bros Craft Tap Room, for use of the Bass Street Landing Public Plaza to sell alcoholic liquor in conjunction with the Bass Street Landing Summer Concert Series on May 15th, May 29th, June 12th, June 26th, July 24th, July 31, and August 14, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And we're to our informational, 10.1, the 2024 to 2026 Strategic Plan Dashboard, Fiscal Year 25, Quarter 1 Report. Mr. Vitas.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, happy to report that, as usual, our staff is working diligently to progress through the major goals laid out in our strategic plan for the current year. So with that said, there are 21 goals, of course, on track. 18 goals are completed. 2 goals are behind schedule, and it says 6 goals are on hold or not started. And I kind of want to focus on those so that they seem to be a subject that come up in emails. So I want to kind of turn to those as opposed to announce how well we're doing and the reason why some of these are where they're at. And some of them, for example, goal 1.1A under technology enhancement, explore broadband alternatives, support municipal services. We're done. We're basically done. That goal goes back to a time when we were looking at doing things before MetroNet came on board. We didn't even know who was going to be the broadband provider. But we continue to manage our broadband services, whether it's, with MetroNet, whether it's with Geneseo Communications, or the QCIC fiber network. And those are kind of ongoing events that take place without having any overarching specific goal. So that's one of them I think you won't see in the next strategic plan. The multimodal transportation plan under walkable and accessible community, that is a big part of what Bi-State does. That's also a part of what will be built into our strategic plan. Not a strategic plan, comprehensive plan. That is one of those key elements that will be discussed as we make that plan. That will likely remain, but it will actually move forward with the strategic planning process. Comprehensive planning process. Then you can see comprehensive plan update as well as comprehensive zoning ordinance. These are under flexible codes and innovative tools. The RFP for the comprehensive plan will be going out shortly, and that year-long process will commence. And a year is being ambitious. Sometimes it takes longer. I'm assuming that a year will probably be sufficient for us to get that done. On the heels of that, the comprehensive zoning ordinance, which I know is a very big topic with certain members of council, is that speaks to whatever is adopted as a comprehensive plan. It's not to say you can't be doing zoning amendment changes. Things can be done, but typically local governments wait until their comprehensive plan is done before they start doing major rezonings of properties. Okay? It's a process, it's a procedure, and it's time tested. So those are several of the issues that are still outstanding, and then they're moving forward. So the next time there's a report issued, one of those will turn green, meaning it's moving forward. The other issue here is the comprehensive municipal code update. We of course went through some pretty exhaustive and expensive changes to the municipal code back in 21, 22, and in 23, and then we kind of said, okay, it's break time. The cost was exorbitant. The code pretty much had been updated to the point we needed it to be. It's not to say there's not more provisions we might not go back and look at, but we may do that more on a case-by-case basis as opposed to, an overhaul of the municipal code. I believe there's one more, if I could just find it quickly. Here we go. Maximize water plant excess capacity. Again, we don't get a lot of requests, right? Silvis was a request during the life of this strategic plan, and we did provide water in that case because there was a dire need and there were issues with the IEPA. Extending water beyond that, beyond where we are today, there is a possibility that, there may be requests out, neighboring the Carbon Cliff. There could be requests over, again, from Coal Valley. But I think before we start diminishing, and this is really important, before we start diminishing our reserve capacity, we first have to have a comprehensive plan and understand what portion of that reserve capacity we need for ourselves before we get to the point where we have just basically entered into intergovernmental agreements and then shared all this water. We have to add Moline to the list. So the water system is very much already becoming regional. Your wastewater system on the South Slope is already regional in nature. So what you're going to see over time, and maybe not during our 10 years, is that eventually you're going to see out of need and necessity, and with the problems with deep wells and shallow wells, that municipal water supplies, such as ours, are going to be in high demand. And that's true not just in Moline, that's true all over the place. So we're going to be looking at that, but I would be remiss to say, hey, let's just go sell it all just for the sake of making money. I think I would rather know that we understand what we're going to do south of the airport, what we're going to do on the north side of between the two rivers in terms of redevelopment or infill development, that we reserve our capacity. So that's the reason why that's on hold at this point. So anyhow, those are the 6 goals that I think call out that red flag, and I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to explain those. But otherwise, we continue to make progress across the boards on our plans, and we won't relax until we get them completed. Some of these plans, some of these goals may survive into the next strategic plan, which this council will be working on in June. And some of them may not. I think it's really up to this council to decide what's going to go forward with the assistance of the staff and based upon input you're going to get from the Polco study, which is out there, basically distributed to 4,000 households throughout the city, as well as the business survey that was released. This Friday, if I'm not mistaken, it is this Friday. Those who did not receive a survey from Polco to participate in that first cohort will be able to participate as Moline citizens, and they will be a part of a second cohort. And that data will be collected and aggregated no differently than the cohort 1 group, which was the random survey. That information will, work to inform this council, this administration, and all the directors what we need to do to move our strategic plan forward and revisit, what it is we're doing as we go and we attempt to then build our budget for the next 3 fiscal years, in particular 2026, at which point the current plan will disappear and the new strategic plan will be put into place. So that's all I have on this subject tonight.
Thank you.
Unless
Questions
there's
from
questions.
the council? Mr. Timian?
I sent Administrator Vitas an email about this. It's just appreciation to the staff. When we came on board, there were no houses or housing being built. And in the current report of things being built, I can't think of the name of it, but
So the permitting update he gives us.
yes, we have apartments being built. We have single-family houses being built. And in this economic time, that's a lot. Like, it's pretty impressive that we have anything being built at the moment, because there's a lot of risk going into that. So I guess that's a appreciation to CED for attracting these developers and finding these deals as well. So I just wanted to show that appreciation.
Thank you.
Ms. Castro?
Mr. Vitas, can you give us an update on the housing plan, the comprehensive housing plan that it says it's on track, and that it's on track? Can you talk a little bit about that? It is 2-1D, established comprehensive housing program.
2A, I will go there now. Let's get there. 2A, it's a long ways down here. Here we 2, 4.
Page 27.
All right, that helps. Probably speak to it without even looking at that. So I will do that. I will speak to it. So where are we at? We have continued at the staff level to have a meeting we refer to as a task force. And that task force includes people from the administration, from the CED department, from Renew Moline, from the Land Bank Authority, and others. And the real goal was to come up with some type of an approach. That's what the comprehensive program would be, but an approach to focus in on what it is we need to do to promote housing starts in the city, whether it's new housing of the single family or multifamily nature, or for that matter, redevelopment or reconstruction of existing houses that are, of course, in need, and there's quite a few of those. So that was really the original goal of having some kind of a strategy. Added to that now, probably in conversations with the mayor, would be how do we deal with the homeless population in the city as well, because housing is an issue there. So it's a very complex issue, and it's one that, Rock Island actually turned to a consultant. They turned to our consultant, PGAB Planners out of St. Louis, to address. There's a lot of similarities, and there's some dissimilarities between our two communities. So some of the information that we need, data can be gleaned from that report, obviously, because it's the same marketplace, right? If you go on Zillow or you can look into CoreLogic, you're going to find out there's a consistency here across the boards, but there are some inconsistencies in terms of what we see as the future for Moline, especially downtown. and potentially south of the Rock River, which at one time was destined to be large lot, single-family properties, and all residential, right? That was 2000. Okay, let's point out, that was the thinking in 1999 and 2000 when the plan was adopted in 2001. A lot has changed since that time, and I envision that's going to be a major topic as you work on your comprehensive plan, because it's the last remaining land mass south of the river that needs to be addressed outside of just nice recreational trails, because those actually are laid out as well. So Barry and I have been talking about kind of redirecting this whole effort, because right now I think everybody's kind of hit the wall a little bit, you know, between what we're trying to do with HUD. We know we've got HUD money for 2025. For 2026, we got no guarantees. We don't know what's going to happen in Washington. If that dries up, that's going to refocus our efforts, and it's going to refocus our dollars, because if there's no money coming from HUD, then we're going to have to find a way to continue doing what we're doing, because a lot of those programs are vital to the community and its revitalization. And we've got 4 dedicated staff members working on that every day.
I think I'm most concerned about the homeless portion of
Okay.
that and what we're doing. I mean, it's summer now. It's going to be, you know, we're not having the dangerous weather, but I think that it's something that we really need to focus on before it starts getting cold again. It's been this goal's been kind of sitting here for a little bit. So I think that anything that we can do to kind of move things along would be really good, because I mean, not only is HUD, I mean, we're not getting the funding, but I think just people overall are you know, they're getting laid off. They are having excess expenses. So I think that it's something that really needs to be prioritized and kind of put at the top of the list, I think.
Yeah. Well, the mayor and I have, I think, regular conversations, I think is the best way to describe it, weekly conversations about the whole homeless issue. You know, it's going to require, you know, not only our own individual effort, but it is going to require partnerships. You know, we can't do this alone. I mean, we can't operate these facilities because we don't have the staff. We can fund others to assist us, like we do with Humility Homes today. And we spent $42,000 and change to have one person in particular do that outreach. But is one person enough to do all that outreach, right? Is there someone outside of Humility Homes that we could work with, for example, to try and address the homeless issue here that seems to, you know, I'm not going to say it's growing rapidly, but it's grown, right? The number's gone up a little bit. And
So,
the same.
I'm gonna interrupt because
ahead.
I think it's important for the rest of the council to know that we had an in-depth discussion at your ward meeting on Thursday
Okay.
about the homelessness situation. I sent an email to CED and our administrators, really asking to push this issue as you're mentioning, because I can hear all day long, we have to wait for the comp plan. The public cannot hear that all day long. The public needs solutions, whether it's dealing with homeless people in their neighborhoods or whether it's finding affordable housing. So there is a professional technical argument happening right now, but we just have to sit and wait for the comp plan. That is not the argument that is appropriate for the public. We have got to find solutions. I don't want to hear that we're spending 3 hours at a conference talking about the problem some more. I understand partnerships. We have worked in those ways. I understand that someone else may have data that will be valuable to us at some point, but we have known the issue. We prioritize this as the number 2 goal of last year's strategic plan version. It was infrastructure and on our roads, throw all the money we could at that, did a great job, and then the housing plan. And we have yet, you said we hit a wall. That sounds to me like we stopped working on that because we had the riverfront to do, and I understand that as well, but the public cannot wait for solutions on homelessness, nor solutions for more options to live in. And when I came on this council 4 years ago and went to my first mayor conference, I shared information about missing middle housing. So this is not a new conversation. This is something we have been asking for, and I cannot accept personally, I don't know about the rest of the council, that the comp plan is gonna do it all for us anymore. So I appreciate that update. If there's any other questions from the council on this topic, entertain that.
There's a comment from the police chief.
Yes, Mr. Gall.
I'd just like to point out that from our experience in law enforcement with the homeless issue, I've been meeting with Bob over the winter about our homeless statistics and the people. And the large majority of that repeat problem is not a housing issue, it is a mental health issue. And so I think I would support the city administrators, general concepts about someone else having to participate in solving that problem, because we know the top probably 20 people are not looking for housing. They have a mental illness issue, and that's a systemic healthcare problem in this area. And you and I have met and talked about that issue, and
The way I described it to the community on Thursday was there's an ecosystem at play here.
yes,
Right?
yes.
There's a lot of factors that go into why people are getting help or not getting help, and we need to come up with a plan that allows the right kind of help and doesn't forget, right? So we can't do anything without supportive services,
Yeah.
for example. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, that we don't want to sort of confuse the need for affordable housing
Right.
with the larger ecosystem of homelessness, but there are some relationship, and we still have a
Yeah, I mean, I
little
think
bit of work to do.
I think, like, for example, my officers that are encountering people that are in short-term homelessness, there are resources available for that, and we can connect them pretty quickly to those. There are a lot of success stories, either our social workers or other of our partners in the area that are solving transitional housing problems or short-term homelessness issues, and those people want help. They're sleeping in a car at Walmart, or they just got evicted, and we have, KJ's money and all that different thing. Those people, we can help. These other individuals that we're getting regular calls on, that are in the cemeteries, in the woods, those are mental health issues that are a completely separate topic from that. So I just wanted to provide that perspective for what we're seeing.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Timian?
Just to kind of piggyback on that, sometimes when we make broad strokes, the paint doesn't always stick. I just came up with that. But making broad strokes and helping find those people that need transition housing, whether it is through grants, hotels, or even establishing a shelter locally, so that they're not sleeping in their car at Walmart. So that, and then we can get them on the next step. Then if we can get that ecosystem working, all we have left is the people who have the mental health issues. And then we can devise a new plan for that. And so I think broad strokes helps us identify sometimes who the most vulnerable are, so we can help those that.
Chief's
Howdy,
back.
sir.
Rebuttal to that. Great ideas.
Yeah.
Just great ideas. Just want you to just understand that, like, for example, shelters. Some of the individuals that they won't go to a shelter, and then the shelters won't take them because of alcohol or mental health or behavioral issues. Many of them are banned from the shelters.
That's why, hence the ecosystem
Right.
issue we have
So,
with our hospitals. et cetera.
I don't see a sheltering issue, like from a shelter space for those that want it. And you, the three of us have worked on this. We need to continue to press for some expanded mental health services to address some of those issues that you're talking about. But I think the broad brush is a great analogy that it should be done. There's a lot of factors there that I'd hate for you to set that up for failure by saying, hey, we got all this affordable housing, and then the people not going into it, and like, why are they not going into it? Just so that you're aware of all these, and you may be, I just wanted to at least bring that to your attention, that some of those issues aren't still gonna solve that problem of that. I mean, we have an individual that's been homeless for 10 years, 7 years. Our top two people, 10 and 7 years, and that is not a housing issue. But just
Correct, yeah. The council can keep clear in their minds, right, which is which, but they fall in the basket of what we are telling the staff are high-level concerns of ours that we don't want ignored or delayed any longer just because there is a comp plan coming out. Because, and that was one question I wrote. In the materials given, it said that an RFP was gonna be given to Mr. Vitas by April 14th. Was that given to you? Where are we at?
Well, it's for the comp plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
comp plan.
That's going to our plan commission tomorrow.
Okay.
And then the intent would be to have the administration review right after that.
Okay, thank you. And then I had a question personally about, I wanted the council to know, I asked Mr. Vitas about the sidewalk condition index. It said it was complete. I said, can we see some kind of map of some sort? I'm not sure if you were able to get that requested yet, but I think, you know, the PCI, the pavement condition index gave us great material to help or resources to help our constituents know exactly what roads were going to be looked at, see if their road was on it, et cetera, et cetera. I think the same thing is helpful for the sidewalk stuff. Mr. Toomey.
In Complete Streets, engineering did show us a map. And so one exists. If I recall, there were about 22 miles of poor sidewalks. A lot of them were in the west side of the city, and some of the more historic neighborhoods. But it is complete and the map does exist, so I'm sure that Director of Engineering can.
We'll distribute it to the full council.
And we have a meeting set up with Bob and Barry next week, Monday, to go over it, and then we'll make a plan for showing it, presenting it to the council.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Dreyer.
you.
Okay, were there any other
We need that.
questions on the strategic plan quarterly update? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mr.
No,
Neal.
just a comment for the strategy in the now. So I was surprised when I attended Alderperson Murphy's meeting. It didn't sound like we just had somebody in a ravine, that we have many
Correct.
homelessness. So when we have this partnership for street outreach, that's also ravine outreach, which are private properties, right? So I don't know how we approach that,
Well,
but
that is the question that was a
Yeah.
follow-up staff needed to take to chief, actually, was the issue of what the cops are saying when people are found on private property. We
Yeah.
basically know there are squatters here and there, right? What can be done with that? Because we understand we've been talking in a small group, right, about this issue. We know there are issues because of the Homeless Persons Bill of Rights in the state of Illinois. That's public property. So I think it would be great if the council could be educated on the private property issues and how the police department is managing that. If you can't do it now, that's fine. But
that's also
that's
something
what
that,
was coming up in this.
that's something our street outreach worker cannot do. Right,
So ravines are public property, for the most part. I mean, I guess you'd have to see a map, but in general, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the ravines here are stormwater runoff situations, right? I mean, I guess it's hard to, you'd have to look at a map, but GIS can assist us with that. But, in general, I guess my general comment about private property is trespassing does apply there. The problem with the Safety Act is that trespassing is a citation, so the criminal activity has to continue to persist. A little bit of a high-level complicated issue there we have to work through, but in some sense we can't take them to jail is part of the problem. So there's also a bill that may end up even prohibiting that for life-sustaining activities, but we'll deal with that if it passes in the spring session here. But I mean, I hate to sound like a lawyer, not to steal your, but it's like, the best answer here is it depends. Can I steal that?
I love that answer.
Yeah. It depends. And so, we have to evaluate these all from a case-by-case basis. I would say, in general, an individual trespassing on private property is trespassing on private property. The problem is, who is the person that's complaining about said trespassing? Do they have legal standing to complain is part of that issue. Is that a fair assessment?
That is.
Counselor?
Yes, it is, Counselor.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy.
Okay. The problem that Ward 1 is having behind Jewel, most of the people, I have been there, I have been to see them when they called. They are people who will not go to a shelter. They're sleeping on the street, they're down in the ravine. Now, I proposed last year, because my understanding, the ravine is owned by the high rise. Because when we wanted them to clean it up, that's who we went to. And we sent a citation for them to clean up, to try to get some of the debris out of there that they had left. So my suggestion was that we have the building put a no trespassing, because it's private property. If they put no trespassing, you're allowed to remove them, right?
Well, we could potentially make an arrest or citation. We have to have a complainant.
But I mean,
My first concern there, just generally speaking, is how motivated is that private property owner to have them not be there? That may be part of the problem. If the private property owner is not willing to go down that road, and sometimes with corporations that have, we're dealing with a manager, right? A low-level staff member that's like, hey, I'm just the night shift clerk here at said property. It's an example. Someone with, authority in that corporation has to say, yeah, we're going to take a stand. We don't want them on the property. Sometimes the officers go to a situation and the person's like, oh, they're not bothering me, just leave them alone, right? For example, no, we don't care. And it's private property. Then and I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Is that if it's private property and that person is, if a person at Jewel is complaining about that's on private property and it's not their property, there's nothing we can do. It has to be the person that owns the property that is complaining about that. And we've had that issue on several occasions. I can tell you that was one of the issues at the Grace Church near 14th Street and 38th Avenue, is people were complaining were not the property owners. The property owners were actually okay with it. The problem that we ended up kind of end-arounding it was the building was unsafe for habitation. So then we were able to do something through building inspections that, hey, it doesn't matter if you want them in there, they can't be in there, that building is not safe. It caught on fire and that's it. But the property owners they were not complaining. It was the other people in adjacent areas that were like, hey, we don't want this here. Well, that property owner is not the one complaining. So this might be some of the same problem, is you can't complain about somebody else's property on a trespassing issue.
Okay.
Fair?
We were missing him on Thursday,
Yes,
weren't we?
well, we did set up a meeting for them.
Okay,
They
great.
had a meeting.
Perfect.
No,
Oh.
last year, right when they
Oh, okay.
complained. We set up a meeting for the Thursday morning. We had the police here. We had what is it?
Humility Homes.
Yeah. They did not show up. No one but the condo. And I talked to them about it. I said, I called you, I invited you. This was a special meeting for you to discuss this problem, and they didn't show up.
And I understand that's probably an issue, is if the property owner isn't cooperative, then,
Yeah. Okay,
then we
thank
have
you.
to maybe look at it from another inspections issue or a health
Health
code
and safety.
issue that the city can then say, hey, you're violating some other ordinance. But from just like a straight trespassing issue, which a member of the public may have in their mind, it's not that easy.
What about the dumpsters? Because that's the attraction, the Jewel dumpsters. That's what.
That's outside of my realm of expertise.
We'll follow up with you too.
okay.
Yes, Mr. Macias.
Thank you. Now, since some of the folks don't want to go to shelters, is it usually because they're either in Davenport or like somewhere else that's not where they normally hang out and they know the police?
Can we ask the media person to leave?
Oh, yeah. But
Listen, shelters have rules. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah.
Shelters have rules, and living on the street does not. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And I do understand, so I do classes for folks who, some of them are homeless and some are maybe on the verge, low-income folks. But there's always going to be the folks, whether it's a drinking problem, drug problem, they got a reason they just can't be at a shelter. And like and I don't know the issues with the 7 and 10 year homeless person, but there's people who are just going to be out there. They want to be out there.
Yep.
We're not going to be able
have
to
people
solve
that
that.
own property that
Want to be on the street.
want
Yeah.
to be on the street.
We won't be able to solve it totally, but
Yep.
could having
Small
a
number.
shelter, it's a small number,
Yeah.
could having a shelter closer in proximity where they do have a property or they have friends or they know the police, it's kind of their neighborhood and people know, hey, that's just Henry who rides around in his bike in our neighborhood. He's harmless. Would that be something that would be more beneficial for our homeless population and not Because traditionally, it's no secret that Davenport's been the one taking all of them for the Quad Cities, not just us.
You know, my speculative opinion, without a lot to back this up, is no. I don't see that that's our issue, is shelter space for the people that want shelter space. Plus, there's a lot of other issues revolving around running a shelter. Like I certainly wouldn't want the shelter, the city to
That's
be
been
doing.
part of the
yeah.
conversation is high-level recommendations of what to do and not
Yeah.
do, just in the conversations that we've been a part of.
But when you're talking about the short-term people, just got kicked out of an apartment, short-term transitional housing, and KJ might be able to back me up on this. We're pretty successful with those people. If they want help, we have resources to help them. If they're in Moline residents or whatever, we've got money, or we had a lot of it at one time. And we're putting those people up in a hotel, getting them connected with social services the next day. Maybe it's a week, maybe I don't know, a month of rent, or maybe two. What was it, up to two? So I mean, those people that want it, I mean, we've been pretty successful. The city's been pretty successful in being a facilitator.
That is where the connection between these two topics that have been brought up happens, because I've said it in some other context, I don't remember where it was, but we know that the price of rent will not come down until you have a higher supply of affordable housing. So if we want to get people into more housing, we have to create more, and that's where my saying we're waiting for the comp plan just doesn't cut it anymore.
Please don't get me wrong. I'm not against additional housing.
I just wanted
I'm just saying that you definitely have two different. You have two different roads here.
Right.
That might get close to each other, but there are two different.
Right.
Because you definitely have those people in that category, and then we have a different issue.
Right.
The problem is what the public sees and is complaining to probably you all, or this is over here that is a different conversation with.
Correct. Yeah, Ms. Castro.
I was just going to comment the same thing about having the two different issues, and I just want to make sure that, I understand that we do have the folks who will not go into shelters, but then when we're looking at our number of people who are unhoused, if we're looking at numbers like Project Now or Humility Homes, those are actually people who are truly unhoused. That's not counting people who are like maybe couch sofa hopping between their friends, or people who are like staying with a relative for a few days, but maybe that's gonna run out. So that's when that affordable housing piece comes in. And then
100%.
so I think that's the kind of, those are the people that we can help. So we need to find ways to help them. And my question is, how do people get the help from KJ, or how do they seek that assistance? How easy is that for them do they have to be referred? Can they just come? Do they have to?
So currently we have a small pot available, but really Level Up saves us. We really refer them over to Level Up.
And it takes forever to get an appointment at Project Now. They do great work, but I know that it can take up to almost like a month for people to get even an appointment with, even if they've been evicted or if they are like on the verge of becoming homeless, it could take almost like a month to get an appointment. So, is there things that we can do in the meantime to kind of assist those folks, like you said, with like hotels? How do they get that information?
Right now, we're down less than 4,000 in our pot here in Moline. And typically, we're going to spend anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 helping someone between the rents and the utility bills. So we got enough money to help one more person before we would come and ask you guys to replenish that fund. So in the meantime, when it's exceeding that, we're like, go for one-time assistance at Level Up.
I think the way I've experienced it is, I think people call the city, they get referred to KJ or other partners like Humility Homes, like the police department, maybe the fire department. They refer people to KJ, and she makes sure they get what they need.
Thank you.
Anything further from the council? Okay. I think we'll close out that meeting and call our regular council meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have an invocation, Ms. Murphy?
No, I don't.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Present.
Macias,
Present.
Razak,
Present.
Timian,
Present.
Finch,
Present.
McNeil,
Present.
Castro,
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
Your Honor, I request the approval of Committee of the Whole, Council, and Executive Session meeting minutes of April 8, 2025, and appointments made at Committee of the Whole on April 22nd, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Razak,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Finch,
Aye.
McNeil,
Aye.
Castro,
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
All right. Is there public comment? All right, hearing none. Back to you.
Your Honor, I request the approval of consent agenda items 17.1 and 17.2 and 18.1 through 18.8 inclusively.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Razak,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Finch,
Aye.
McNeil,
Aye.
Castro,
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Non-consent agenda resolutions. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a notice of intent to award with McClintock Trucking and Excavating, Inc. for project number 1495, 2025 lead service line replacement project for the amount of $2,782,423.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion? I was gonna say, it's exciting to see the maps of where this is all happening, and we're really getting going.
Yeah, so the maps were based on the census tracts to help us get this forgivable loan. It's basically the area around Stevens Park and then an area around Wilson Junior Higher and Middle School.
Thank you. Anything further from the council? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Razak,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Finch,
Aye.
McNeil,
Aye.
Castro,
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Item number 20.2, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a contract with Kim Construction Company, Inc. for project number 1449, 2025 manhole lining program for the amount of $252,583.50.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Razak,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Finch,
Aye.
McNeil,
Aye.
Castro,
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Item number 20.3, a resolution approving an amendment to the rules and regulations adopted by the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners concerning Chapter 4, examinations for original appointment, fire.
Hang on,
Chapter
Chapter
six.
6, thank you.
Oh, Chapter 6.
No problem.
Okay. Examinations for original appointment, fire, Section 4, physical ability test to require proof of successful completion of the CPAT by a licensed facility issued within 1 year prior to the date of the written examination.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Razak,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
Finch,
Aye.
McNeil,
Aye.
Castro,
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Item number 20.4, a resolution authorizing the chief of police to execute the sole source order form with Skydio, Inc. to provide drone services and equipment for the total contract amount of $318,166.90 for a 5-year term, and authorizing the chief of police to accept a proposal with Davenport Electric Contract Company to install 2 drone docks for the amount of $9,478 for each site, and to execute any necessary documents and do all things necessary, including additional subcontracting quotes and purchase equipment for the completion of a drone as first responder program, and authorizing the Director of Finance to allocate up to $350,000 of the DCEOPD General Trust Account funds for the completion of a drone as first responder program.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Macias.
Could we get an invite when these things are tested? Would love to see it in action.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
So in preparation and reviewing through this, I also was looking through the drone policy that we had enacted. I'm supportive of us moving forward, but I am concerned that our current policy is maybe not up to being able to deal with some of these things. Like our current policy says we can't fly the drones at night, and a couple things like that. And I just, knowing we're coming to a big change in our capabilities, that it seemed like the right time perhaps to update that policy as well.
Well, keep in mind that policy is for two purposes. One, the current drone program that we have now, and for the accreditation that we went through with the current program that we have now. We are aware that there will have to be updates to it once we procure new equipment, including additional, who's going to be authorized to use it and what the training program is, because it's going to be different because we're Part 107 drone certified now as individuals. So you are 100% right. There will have to be adjustments that we made. Just not putting the cart before the horse, because we know that's going to be probably 120 days out.
And I'm sure there'll be things too that as they go through the training, you may learn things that you need to adjust and adapt to.
So we have a robust policy platform that we have a policy committee as well for not just this but everything that we review annually. Many of them, they're on a schedule, and then once we get the new products in and get ready to deploy them, the suggested policy changes will go to the drone committee or the policy committee, come back to me and my administrative staff. They'll be approved, and then they will be published. And that, as I mentioned in that email from last week, the law requires us to publish that on our website. So it will then go back out once updated. And then if you looked at that policy, you can see the revision dates. We track the revision dates. So, for example, if there was a violation, we had to hold someone accountable. We hold them accountable to the policy was in place at the time of the violation. So even if the policy is updated, if the violation was under a previous policy, we hold them to account of the policy that was in place at the time. So the revision dates are important too as well. Yep.
Thank you. Oh, was there another hand? Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
If there's nothing further, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Non-consent agenda, first reading ordinances. Item number 21.1, an ordinance dedicating parcel/pin number 08324190001, commonly known as 715th Street, Moline, Illinois, as public right-of-way.
Motion to advance the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, motion to advance to second reading carries. Item number 21.2, an ordinance amending Chapter 16, Libraries of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 16-3107, Fees, by enacting one new section, 16-3107, dealing with the same subject matter.
Motion to advance the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Aye.
Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, motion to advance to second reading carries, and that's all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. All I have for miscellaneous business was that today at 3 o'clock was a beautiful tree planting in honor of former Mayor Stan Leach. A lot of supporters there. Our staff did a wonderful job of preparing the space, picking the space, and also, yes, thank you, Ms. Smith, for your kind words about the former mayor, and also Mr. Vitas for wrapping things up there at the event. It's a beautiful red bud right in the front of the library, so it seemed very fitting. He was fond of the library, and of course, we know he gave a lot to the city. That's all I have, Ms. Murphy.
I want to thank everyone who came to First Ward, and thank you for your participation, the staff. And it was a lively discussion, and I'm sure we have a lot of things to work on. Also, Saturday, Keep Moline Beautiful is looking for volunteers. We're going to be down by the river, the old Spiegel building. They're going to clean up from 9 to 12. From 9 to 12, we're going to be there. And at 8, come at 8:45 if you want to, early, so we can get the supplies or whatever. So there's a sign-up sheet on the website. So
Which web? The KMB one?
both of them.
Moline, okay.
yeah.
have a
Yes,
question.
questionable.
How do they pick places to clean up? How does that go about? So say there's an area in my ward. How does that? Who manages that?
Denver, you want to help me with this one? Because there was a little bit of a last minute
Yeah, this
decision.
specific one, we talked during the Keep Moline Beautiful Commission meetings last couple of months.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
And
they're
then,
deciding-
yeah, but then we had a site picked out, but it was already cleaned, so then at the last minute,
Yeah.
we picked
It was
this new site, so, yeah,
Email discussion.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that probably residents could email you all or Keep Moline Beautiful Commission if they have a neighborhood they want.
Okay.
Sounds like email Denver.
Okay.
Mr. Schmidt, did you have a hand? No. Okay. Mr. Macias,
Nothing, Your Honor.
was that?
No, thank you.
Timian?
Thank you, Your Honor. Due to the overwhelming popularity of the Immersion Day at Humility Homes, they've opened a second day. So if you wanted to go on May 2nd and couldn't, May 9th is an option. Just go to their website and you can register. Highly encourage you to do it. I'd also like to remind you all that May is National Bike Month. And I would encourage you all to get to know your city a little bit better and maybe ride a bicycle to council to see what other people go through who might not have a car, or just see how accessible our city is firsthand. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Finch? Nothing, Your Honor. Mr. McNeil?
Oh, I think Alderman Timian. Thank you. I have nothing else.
Ms. Castro?
I will not be riding my bike from 7th Ward down to.
Moline isn't that big.
But I just wanted to, I'm glad that we are cleaning up down by Spiegel Building. I actually, sitting in church this Sunday, had a young constituent come up to me saying that he had a complaint. He lives in my ward, and he was specifically complaining about the Spiegel Building and that area right around it. His dad may have been an older person, but he spoke very, very eloquently about how he thought that that area needed to be cleaned up. So I hope that
Maybe
Alderperson
he'll
Schmidt
come
goes
and
home
join
and
us.
tells him maybe he can volunteer.
Yeah. Maybe you'll come and bring him and join us.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'd just like to say for the record that I, other than introducing him to Alderperson Castro, did not push that agenda. No, nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Vita.
Yeah, just a few announcements, I think. First of all, our next city council meeting on May 6th will not be here. It's at the library. Just a friendly reminder so you don't come here by accident. So there'll be the swearing-in ceremonies and, of course, our regular meetings to follow. Might even be some treats for all I know. We haven't decided yet, but there'll be something for sure.
After tonight, he doesn't give us
No, I'll give you some treats. I got a lot of treats. Couple things that are going on. We did get 5 proposals for conducting our strategic planning process in June. So we're going to be selecting somebody and moving forward with that. Hopefully by the end of the week, by Friday, we'll have someone selected. The Climate Action Plan, which was something we started almost 4 years ago, actually, or discussing it. We had 9 proposals. Denver's been leading the charge on that. We're down to 2. So I'll be meeting with Denver and his team to talk about the Climate Action Plan. The May 5th is the beginning of construction right behind me on 7th Avenue construction. Don't drive through here, go around. Everything's gonna be shut down from 15th Street to 17th Street, so that they can launch this project. So you're gonna see, I think, next week or this week, you'll see the building come down on the corner, the old Cantrell chiropractic office. But, I think the gas company's out there trying to get out of the way as well. So that's going on. And then, let's see, there was something else I wanted to bring up. Oh, the other thing is the folks at the Illinois High-Speed Rail Commission reached out to me, and I want to make this announcement here, but we're going to be circulating this through the Illinois Municipal League so that we reach and basically all our professional associations. We're going to do a mass reach out to everyone so that all the cities, counties, towns, villages all have knowledge that there is going to be a virtual event that's being held in Illinois between April 28th to May 11th, at which point citizens, residents of the state of Illinois And interested parties, they can actually listen to a pre-recorded presentation, they can review exhibits on the work that's coming out of the commission, and then leaving their input and their comments by taking a survey. So that public engagement process is going to go on initially between April 28th and May 11th, and it'll be open to all members of the general public. So our job, and I've committed to doing it, was, and I'll work with Ashley, she doesn't know that yet, or she does. I sent her an email the minute I got this letter today. I've been waiting for this for 2 weeks. So now that the letter is here, I'll push this letter out. It's from James Derwinski, who heads up Metro, but he is also chairman of the High Speed Railway Commission. So it's off and running. You know, it's all good news. And I will say in here that the network envisions speeds of up to 220 miles per hour and would link Chicago to St. Louis while expanding connections to Rockford, Peoria, Decatur, and beyond, including Moline. Mayor was waiting for me to say Moline. Incorporating the existing Amtrak, Metro, and Metrolink services and intercity bus connections. So it's pretty significant that this is getting launched at this point. By the end of the year, we should have kind of a plan in place that will be delivered to the legislator and to the governor. So just a heads up, and that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Any other staff updates? Okay, hearing none, is there any public comment for the list? No? We have no executive session. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion by Castro, seconded by Schmidt. All in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned.